That's some of the dozens of families that have been showing up at the Illinois State Capitol for months on end when they've been on session in Springfield. You have kids chanting, call the bill, save my scholarship, but that didn't happen. Lawmakers called it all off and said we're going home until next year, and that happened with the end of fall veto session yesterday. So I was there on the ground for all 3 days this week and 3 days last week. Families were on location saying that they wanted their scholarship to be saved and for the Illinois House Speaker to, quote, call the bill. So they did not call the bill. And you've got the reaction, of course, from various areas, including the teachers' unions. And I want to pull this up on Twitter so you can see this. The reaction from the Illinois Education Association to the Invest in Kids Act, the act that allows for individuals to give private donations for exchange of a 75% Illinois income tax credit. Again, these are private dollars being donated to give to kids of lesser means so that their families can choose a school that better fits their needs in a non-public school, for instance. So you had this since 2018. It's helped out thousands of families. 9,600 kids have this scholarship now, but with it set to sunset December 31st, the question is what's going to happen to them, right? So obviously this was a big issue for the past year, if not 2 years, with families on location to sound off on this. But the teachers' unions opposed it. And here's a statement from the Illinois Education Association president on their Twitter account. It says, "It's a new day in Illinois. We are incredibly grateful to our lawmakers for choosing to end the voucher scheme known as Invest in Kids." They go on to say this program sent millions of taxpayer dollars to private schools and was created under the guise of helping students of color, but we know that their funds went predominantly to white students, they claim. They also go on to say the voucher system was intentionally created with a lack of oversight and accountability, leaving us with no data to measure its effectiveness. Public money belongs in public schools, and we are glad our lawmakers believe that too. 80% of our public schools in Illinois are underfunded. We need to focus on providing necessary funding to our public schools so that all children in Illinois continue to have access to high-quality public education. So again, the teachers union glad that this school choice program is going to end December 31st because the bill wasn't called, despite there being evidence that there was plenty of support. I don't know why they didn't just put it up on the board and put people on record. And if it failed, it failed. If it passed, it passed. Extend it. The governor said that he would pass an extension if it got on his desk. But again, some of the things that the teachers union points out here, number one, they say that it takes money away from public schools. Public schools have been getting $350 million extra for the past 5 years each year. So that's more than $2 billion that have been given to public schools. They get more than $10 billion each year from state funds, let alone the high property taxes that Illinois is known for across the state going to public schools. So clearly public schools getting a lot of money. The Invest in Kids program was not public dollars. It was private dollars. Now, if you want to make some kind of argument that the tax credit takes away from the tax funds, I guess, I don't know if I need to see that flow chart, but a tax credit for an individual to give to families so they could choose education that best fits their students, that was the purpose of the Invest in Kids Act. But it's going to end December 31st because lawmakers didn't advance it. So the question about public money that the teachers union points out. Another issue that the teachers union points out that I want to also touch on, it talks about how it was intentionally created with a lack of oversight and accountability, leaving us with no data to measure its effectiveness. From my understanding, the law spells out that the administration, the Pritzker administration, I believe it's either the Department of Human Services or some education arm, they're supposed to be surveying students and parents about the effectiveness of the Invest in Kids Act. And I don't think that's happened. So that's why you don't have data, is because apparently, according to my understanding, the Pritzker administration hasn't implemented those surveys to ultimately see how the program's been operating. And that gives, I guess, a way for the objectors to say, look, there's no data. So we don't know how effective this is. So that's an interesting point. I think it needs to be evaluated. But regardless, the program is going to sunset. And while you had a whole bunch of measures brought up on the final day of fall veto session that extended sunsets for a variety of things, one thing that wasn't extended was the Invest in Kids School Choice Scholarship Program. State Representative Dan Ugasti, he talks more about this and how they should have focused on the Invest in Kids program.
Very supportive of this bill. I believe it has great provisions. I believe it's something we need to do. It's missing two key items. It's missing, one, an extension of the mandatory sentencing for unlawful use of a weapon. at a time when our cities are being racked by people shooting at each other. We're about to get rid of mandatory sentencing. I'm not quite certain to what end, what we think it's going to do, how we think it's going to help. We have problems, untold problems right now with crime in our communities. Hopefully, we'll think better of it and do something about it early next spring before too much more happens. As for the Invest in Kids, most important piece of legislation we could have done to help the children of the state of Illinois, to guarantee them a better future, to guarantee them a better opportunity. I don't see anything else in the calendar today that indicates we're going to call something to extend that bill either. It's a shame we're letting those kids down, but it's not our side of the aisle letting them down. We have 40 votes in support, and I know there's some in support over there, and I believe there's probably enough to carry it through. This bill should have been called. It should have been part of this omnibus.
And it wasn't. So the Invest in Kids Act obviously is not going to go anywhere now that the legislature is called off, and they're out until January 16th. Bill Howder, state representative, Republican. He's a doctor, a physician, now in the state house as a legislator. He's not used to this political wrangling that happens with outside lobby groups like teachers' unions putting pressure on lawmakers.
I stand to just congratulate the majority party who has stood firmly against the Invest in Kids program. Only one more day. Your unwavering commitment to kill this scholarship program that mostly benefits Black and brown students, low-income families, and our most vulnerable population has been breathtaking. I mean, amazing, amazing. Only one more day of ignoring the emails, the demonstrations, the pesky kids in your office begging to save their scholarship, and it's all over, right? I don't really know how you did it, seemingly against everything. The voters, the polls, the kids, the facts, but you persevered through it all. I know I'm new to all this. I don't know the pressure of taking orders from special interest groups. So thank you for educating me on how this game works. At least someone's being educated in this entire mess. So again, I stand in absolute awe of your focus on equity in killing scholarships for all races and income levels. You persevered in taking an unpopular stand, and your unwavering loyalty to teachers' unions over kids is just admirable. In a few hours, kids will lose their scholarships in the middle of the school year. It'll be a tough few hours, but I'm confident you can do it if you keep the instructions, not the actions, mind you, the instructions of teachers' union leader Stacey Davis Gates in mind. Hold on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Obviously, a bit tongue-in-cheek there, but somebody who is just new to the General Assembly, highlighting some of the things that he says he's seen and how the outside pressure groups like the teachers' unions put pressure on legislators. State Representative McLaughlin also sounding off on the lack of action for the Invest in Kids program.
I hope you know the personal faces of whose lives you've just destroyed. In my district, I'll include myself, 44. And I've heard from every single one of these families devastated by your inaction. You know, being proud doing this job is something that is more than about those on the outside that try to influence us. As we leave here today without doing something, I don't understand how you can be proud about this inaction. I myself was an underprivileged kid that got a scholarship to a high school. It changed my lives and the lives of 4 of my best friends, people of color, who went on to successful careers. This is personal to me, and it's personal to hundreds and thousands of families whose lives you've just put in terrible jeopardy, and you've destroyed their opportunity for an equitable education. Not something to be proud of, my friends.
So, again, the politics of this, Republicans said they had the votes. They believe they had the votes. All 40 House Republicans were on board. They say that there is 30-35 Democrats that would jump on with them to support this. Why it wasn't brought up on the board is unclear. The House Speaker, it ultimately controls what goes up on the board for a vote. But there were some Democrats out there who've been vocally in support of this. One has a bill to extend it. While it did chip away at some of the income tax credit provisions, it still would have extended it and kept it going. But that didn't advance. State Representative Cuellar, I believe the bill sponsor is. But you had others as well. State Representative Olicle, who, a Democrat from Skokie, stood up in support of the bill and said that they're going to continue to fight as a Democrat to get this across the finish line, even though it's going to sunset at the end of the year.
I'm a proud product of public schools. I committed my career to public service so I could continue to advance and protect the policies that allowed an immigrant family like mine to thrive in this country. The most important of that being a well-funded public school system. I strongly believe in public education system that is well-resourced for every child, regardless of the community they are born into. And this year, I, proudly with my colleagues, voted to fund early childhood education at $250 million. Put an additional $350 million into K-12 public education for significant funding increases for our higher education institutions, and there's still more work to be done to fully fund our public school system. And I'm all in on doing that. And I commit here today that I'll vote for progressive revenue to close that gap and fully fund our public schools and public institutions. I also rise today to address the Invest in Kids program. The 16th district is home to more than 2,000 of the almost 10,000 low-income students on scholarship statewide. I've spent countless hours meeting with and speaking to the families of these students. I've gotten to know them and the importance of this program to them. And I want to speak to those families. It looks like there may not be the requisite support to extend this program, or quite frankly, to make sure the rug isn't pulled out from under our students. And now as we go into the holiday season, these children in the gallery, thousands in my district and across the state, who had no agency of their own to decide what school district, what community they were born into, but had the chance to participate in this program, will be thrown into uncertainty. There's no guarantee that they'll be able to stay at the school that they may have grown to love and build community within, and may be thrown into a harmful transition. I may be one voice, one vote, and I'll continue to carry your concerns in this state capitol, and I will fight for the policies that ensure that you have the same chance as any to succeed in this state. Thank you.
So, again, they leave the chamber on the House side before even bringing up a vote for the Invest in Kids Act, and the Senate left as well without a vote for the Invest in Kids Act. Clearly, we'll see this bring up next year when they return, January 16th. House Minority Leader Tony McCombie reacting to the inaction of extending the Invest in Kids Act.
The funding is coming for the evidence-based funding regardless of this program. The governor and the budget continues to feed the evidence-based funding model. We continue to have the funds going into the evidence-based funding model. It's feeding the tiers. That is not an issue in this program, whether we have it or we don't. It is not.
And that's all for public schools. Public schools are going to continue getting that funding regardless if the Invest in Kids program is active or inactive.
Going to change that. This tax credit is not coming out of our education funding. So I could argue that is not taking away from the public education.
McCombie continued with some of the reaction.
Well, we certainly didn't discuss anything with ethics, and here we are.
Lack of action on all kinds of stuff from the past, veto session.
Well, we certainly didn't discuss anything with ethics, and here we are again. In the middle of a trial, and we're going to be approaching another trial in the spring, and nothing is addressed. So it blows my mind that we are not talking about that. So we have to discuss that. So
ethics also left on the cutting room floor, as well as the state's proposal from Democrats wanting to have the firearms owners facing domestic orders of protection to have their firearms confiscated by police rather than just handing the firearms over to a third party. That did not advance either for fall veto session. A whole host of things left on the cutting room floor for fall veto session. But obviously, I think a big one was the Invest in Kids program, where thousands of families are now going to have to seek out what their options are. Or they can continue to lobby and see if they can come back January 16th and see if lawmakers will bring up a reauthorization of the Invest in Kids Act to keep it going. State Representative, the House Minority Leader, Tony McCombie, says that she will fight for that, and hopefully there can be constructive conversations about all of that next year in the spring.
There's so many different ways that we could do things, but we have to be all together. There's different advocacy groups for it. I think they should be sitting together. I think Representative Guerrero's bill is certainly a good bill, a good start. She's a fierce advocate for it. I think to bring in the folks that are against it, I think they have valid concerns that they could bring forward and build something that could really be great for the kids, right? I think the concerns of the Black Caucus, where there's not funding going to those underserved schools, I think that's very valid. And I think that there should be some money put to those areas as well. So I think there is some things that we could do to make it a better program, a more effective program that could serve more students as well.
So there you go. That's your show for Friday. A review of all kinds of things happening at the state legislature. Fall veto session. It's done and over with. They won't be back until January 16th. We'll be there on the ground, track the latest. But be sure to stay tuned. Check out the channel, subscribe, like, follow. Programming note, I'm going to take a few days off next week. Might be hit or miss. I've got tons of other stuff I need to talk to you about, including police recruitment in other states. We'll track what happens with the gun and magazine ban litigation. We've also got next month, don't forget, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules is going to meet again. Plenty of other stuff to unpack from the past 3 days of fall veto session, so we'll get to that as well. But I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. You guys are making this show possible. I'm doing it from my home, so I greatly appreciate the support. And the subscriptions continue to blow my mind. I think I'm over like 8,500, if not 8,600. We'll get to 9,000, who knows. Check out the shirt, by the way. Trying to test out some merchandise. We'll see what happens, but, you know, it's all right. Got some stickers. We're testing all this stuff out, all right? So I promise we'll give you guys an opportunity to grab up some of this if you want. Got to get out of here. Have yourselves a wonderful holiday. Happy Veterans Day. And we'll see you back here soon, all right? I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out. It is Bishop on Air. Here on all your socials. YouTube, Facebook, X. You can find me on Instagram. But really, if you need to get a hold of me, just email me, bishoponair@gmail.com. All right. Have a great weekend, guys.